A lot of things happened at the Grand. Not to me,
That's what I
unfortunately.
Ever since I moved to Paris, Texas in 2013, I've been aware of the abandoned movie theater on our downtown square. It's impossible to miss. A giant marquee with glowing neon letters that spell out Grand. Built in 1916 and transformed into a movie theater in the late 30s, this building has weathered a century of history. So over the past few months, I set out to uncover the story of the Grand, its golden years, its fall from grace, and what might still lie ahead. The first voice you heard was Kathy Harville, who grew up here in the 1960s and has many fond memories of what the Grand once was.
I thought it was quite fancy. Like you went to the movies, I mean, every weekend. Everybody in town dumped their kids at the movies, or we rode our bicycles. So it really was a hub.
And Kathy's story is far from unique. According to Professor Catherine Fuller Seeley, a film historian with a soft spot for small-town theaters, these venues weren't just for watching movies. They were a part of daily life.
Either you always went on a Tuesday, or it's a Saturday and the whole family's going, or you were shopping at the little meat market or grocery store or vegetable stand or shoe shop nearby. And hey, you could catch a matinee. So a movie theater was many things to many people, but all for the community.
Fast forward to the 1970s, and the Grand was still a bustling community space. I spoke with my friend Julie Setzer to hear about her memories at that time.
So I was 17 years old, and me and my best friend, Bronwyn, went to see Aloha, Bobby, and Rose. I mean, it upset me so bad. And when we came out, I was hysterically crying, inconsolable. And I just remember getting in her car and just the feeling of, like you're 17 years old. Everything is love and romance to you. And I think about that all the time. Like nearly every time I drive by the Grand Theater, I think about Bobby and Rose.
The first movie I ever saw when I was a little kid, we're talking like 1988, I think, was Oliver and Company, the Disney cartoon. I think it was a Disney cartoon. Not the best animated film ever, but that was the first movie that I ever went to, and it was at the Grand.
Up until the late 90s, the Grand remained a cultural hub in Paris. But as new theaters cropped up across town, the Grand started to fade into memory. Chad Lindsay shares more.
It was not at that point in the mid to late 90s being kept up with, being cleaned. It had a lot of problems that weren't being addressed. And then when the new movie theater, Movies 8, came along, they tried to go to a dollar theater. It didn't last. And then 1997 is when it closed down.
But the Grand wasn't alone in its downfall. Historic theaters were closing their doors all across America.
Blockbusters and the rising costs drove fewer and fewer films to be made, which of course made it very hard for small-town movie theaters. The streaming world and the dismantling Hollywood and COVID really have done a number on these places where communities gathered.
Now, in an age of streaming and on-demand content, it's hard to remember a time when your consumption choices were at the mercy of your local theater. But with that convenience, we've lost a sense of watching together.
Well, it was, old, and it was kind of shabby even then, but it was full. Now when you go into a theater, there might be 2 people in there. It's like when you start thinking, if it came out in the 60s, we saw it, you know what I mean? Everybody was talking about the same thing at the same time. And I'm not a big movie theater person now because I'm rotten. You can take off your bra and lay on your couch and watch whatever you want to. And you know how it feels kind of good, like when everybody will get on something, it'll trend and everybody will get excited about it. It gives you kind of that feeling like, we're kind of in this together, but it's not very often.
So the Grand has sat, silent and shuttered for nearly 30 years. And while many have tried to bring it back to life, every effort so far has failed.
We brought in a lot of creatives, but unfortunately there were a lot of hurdles to get past before we could be very creative, because it was like, well, asbestos. That's we got to do that first. That group, it kind of fell apart for a while, except for Julia Trigg Crawford. She kept things going. We started getting the word out. There was a little bit more buzz, and then the pandemic hit, and that pretty much stalled our efforts. And it was kind of back to square one.
Today, the Grand has been pulled back to its original structure. Now it's a waiting game. In the meantime, I decided to ask Chad for a tour.
This is the balcony. How about that view?
I feel like I'm in New York,
Right?
and I'm watching a Broadway show.
It just doesn't look like anything from this time or place.
No.
And it could be just so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Grand.
But yeah, you can tell this was gorgeous. But you can't look at this and then think, God, I hope it gets restored. Because
Yeah.
to lose something like this would just be tragic.
So restoring the Grand isn't just about screening movies again. It's about reviving a space that holds generations of memories, from its first Cary Grant film to the final showing of Men in Black. And the way to keep these memories alive is to open the space up for the whole community.
But if entrepreneurs could do things like bring in other events, live concerts, use these community spaces in other ways, that was how to keep surviving. And also restoring the theaters. I've heard of many small-town theaters that could be purchased for $100,000, but would cost $1 million to make it functional again. Who has that kind of money? I think the whole town has to get involved and, make the whole town a destination. My vision is the best thing to do with it would be turning it into a multi-use venue where you can have a live theater production if you want. Have a concert there. If the comedy club wanted to have some events there too. There's so many things you could do with it. So I think turning it into something that's usable in different ways, I think would be the best way forward. But where there's a will, there's a way. Maybe an angel will come through and help it happen. I hope so. Here's hoping for your Grand.
Oh, I think it could mean a lot to people because stuff happens when you're at the movies. You're impacted by the movie itself. You're in love at the movie a lot of the time. It's an emotional experience in all the ranges of emotion. You don't ever forget going to the movie. So I hope great things for the Grand. I hope it gets grand again. Make the Grand grand again. Which
We probably won't put that in.
no. I hope it is restored to its former glory and beyond. It wasn't a beautiful place. But I had a lot of fun there. Lots of fun.